Well, we've reached 11 o'clock, so I'm going to ask John to mute the people on Zoom and welcome to everyone. Those of you who are here in person, wonderful to see you. And to see those of you who are with us today on Zoom. We're on our first venture into across the Atlantic programming today. Some of us like to kind of push the envelope of what we can do with Zoom. And John and Marty Bender are the first members of our group, I believe, who are willing to share what they do when they are absent during these winter months at another location. So, and that today will be talking with us and helping us learn to know the congregation they're involved with, in worshiping with, in Carbis Bay, which is in Cornwall on the west coast of England. So the vicar of the, I think, geographic area is Etienne Ben Clerk, and John will be interviewing him. And I think Marty and Hannon, and correct my pronunciation later, will be with us. So we'll turn it over to you. I think we're going to start with hearing some bells in the Church of Santa Ana. Some of you may have seen the video, but there'll be a short clip of that.
Is it finished?
Yes.
Back in class. There's story. I don't know.
Can you hear us?
Yes, we hear you.
Greetings from Cornwall, Carbis Bay. Marty and I are delighted to be able to join you today, along with Etienne, the vicar, and his wife, Anand. And at my feet is Vicky, who's the only person I see sleeping in church, the only creature. We're delighted again that Etienne has worked this into his schedule. He has a very good PowerPoint to share some of the story. And we will begin that with telling us a bit more about the life and ministry of the benefice of Carbis Bay and Leland.
Yeah, thank you very much, John. I hope you can all hear me. Can someone wave at me just to say that they can hear us very clearly? Yeah, thank you very much. That's great. We're quite used to Zoom. It's lovely to have John and Marty here in our midst because they join us sometimes on Sundays, 6 a.m. Your time, when it's 11 o'clock here. And it's lovely to be able to connect like that. One of the advantages of COVID and all the online connections that we make. So we're still continuing that, which is great. I was struck by what John sent to you. I presume most people who are at this gathering would have had the writing that John had sent, I presume, John. And yes. He wrote about if a little, almost like a little prose for our magazine, and he quoted that as well. If we were surfers or artists or chefs, and there's a long list of things that he said, then they would go to Cornwall. But he also said if we had family there. And John and Marty are like family to us as well. We really love John and Marty, and I'm sure you agree, it's not difficult to love them. And they've been coming for many, many years. It's not only John and Marty, we've got other people who also visit from other places, because Cornwall is a very attractive part of the country, and people come on holiday here. In fact, we have many, a very high percentage of second home owners. And I was just struck by what John wrote and said that if they're looking for family, they will come here as well, because they're definitely part of our church family. And as you can hear, I don't have an English accent. I'm South African, and I've been in Britain for 20 years. But I don't want to talk about myself first, or my wife. At one point, she will be able to speak as well, because she's Jordanian and speaks Arabic, and I'll interpret a little bit, just so you can hear the Arabic language. But I'm going to share a PowerPoint and then answer the question that John has asked. I'll ask him to answer it again, so I'll just allow me to share the screen. If you give us a wave, if you can see that, that would be great. Anybody on the screen, can you see the PowerPoint that we have up? Yeah, thank you very much. Good. Thank you very much.
So Etienne will share a bit about the life and ministry of the benefice of Carbis Bay and Lelant, these two churches, St. Anta and All Saints, and St. Uni, which you have a bit of a clip in that sheet that was handed out.
Yes, so you have some background, and Jan writes about it as well, so he'll be able to elaborate in his blog or via email or when he gets home as well. As you know, Cornwall, and they often refer to Cornwall as the county of the saints. There are so many places, names, and churches, and not just churches, buildings, and they're all named after saints, more so than any other part in Britain. And St. Anta and St. Uni won't be unique in that. St. Uni is actually one of, they reckon, one of the first saints who came here, or missionaries, a Celtic missionary, and they think that St. Anta was his sister, and St. Aya as well, another sister. That's what they think. So I'll go to share with you, if I can get it on. I don't know why it's not clicking over. So technical difficulties here. Not turning over, we just want to see whether we can do that again.
The presence of saints in Cornwall is thanks to those who came from Ireland across the Irish Sea.
Yeah, and St. Uni was one of them. So this church building dates back to the Norman times, as John had written in his paper as well. And you can see there to the right, the two gables, the stonework looks irregular to what you see on the left, because a few centuries ago, this building was under sand. This church surrounded by a golf course, and right next to the Hale estuary. And so we're on the far western, one of the most far western points of England. We're right at the foot of England. and almost at the tip of the world for England, and where we also have Land's End going on a bit further. In the distance, you can see St. Ives, and they call this St. Ives Bay on this aerial shot. But you see the church there, and around it is a golf course. And the golf course was built by a vicar in the Victorian times called Tyek, and his grave is just to the right of the church as we're looking at it now. And he was a keen golfer, and along with other goodwill people, wanted to preserve the dune, of which you can see also towards the right. And in Cornish, they call it a towen, almost like town, pronounced towen. And they preserved the dune by building the golf course. So we have special insurance by the golf club to protect our building from all the golf ball damage that it gets. But you can also see to the left, there's another churchyard, and there's a little building there. You can just see sort of the front facade of it. And that is part of one of the buildings that we use as well. We call that the St. Unile Land Heritage Centre. Anyway, it's a very beautiful setting, and people come from everywhere to come and play on this golf course, which is the oldest golf course in Cornwall. We are known for our living churchyard, and I'm always very excited about that. On the bottom right, you can see that is not a scabious bee, but it's a bee on the scabious flower, and that's a protected solitary bee. As I said, not the one that you see a picture of, because they're very rare. They're an endangered species, and we have a churchyard full of that scabious flower to protect the solitary mining bee. But you can also see pictures of our common spotted pyramidal orchids there at the top, next to the bird of prey. We have a whole plantation of them when it comes to spring, and Marty and John will probably share photos with you about that as well, because that picture of the daffodil is the spring as we have it now. But the most beautiful scenery around the area. Of course, St. Uni is also known for a meeting place and starting place for the British Camino de Santiago de Compostela. And since Marty and John are keen pilgrims, walking a lot, he writes about how we go every year around the sun, and almost 500 million miles. I'm thinking they're trying to break that record in walking, because they walk everywhere. But it's at this church where we have a big footfall of pilgrims coming in, and not just for the Santiago, but also for the Cornish Celtic Way and also St. Michael's Way, routes that Marty and John have also walked. I actually want to take Marty and John to our favourite place in Cornwall, Priest Cove, Cape Cornwall, which they probably have been at already. But that's where we see very rare birds, not just that bird of prey, but they call it choughs. And yes. The choughs they are special, almost extinct kind of crow with a red beak and red feet or claws, and make very interesting sounds. You hear them before you see them, and they sort of fly in a different way as well. But lots of interesting things regarding nature in this part of the world. So living churchyard means that we don't cut the churchyard but once a year, because we want to protect the insects and also the flowers that grow there. And that surrounds that heritage centre that you saw. So it's idyllically beautiful when it is all in flower. St. Anta Church was the daughter church of St. Uni, the old church. A little mission hut used to stand where this church was. These pictures are not very good, but you can see what the church used to look like and what it looks like now. It was extended in the 1960s. To include a bigger congregation, which showed some growth. And you can see that the tower was extended at some point as well. And it is very unique. And you heard the bells ringing and saw the bells ringing in that tower because we have 10 bells. I think only one of 3 churches. Doreen might correct me. Doreen is one of our parishioners is visiting here as well, and John and Marty have written about her as well. So moving on, just to tell you what we're doing, I've sort of just summarized some of the things, but of course, you know, the church life would be very busy. We are an Anglican church, the Church of England, and as you know, the Church of England have an array of streams of churchmanship, as we call it. We're sort of middle of the road, informal, but not really high Anglo-Catholic. But Cornwall is known for its Anglo-Catholic churches as well, beautiful churches in surrounding, like St. Hilary, not too far here from us. And also St. Alban Church in Hale, just across the estuary. But yes, that is what makes us church, isn't it? The worship that we bring and the fellowship that we have. There's some pictures here of St. Anta, and you can see our services as well. And the bishop confirming people, some of our people in our congregation. Hospitality is something that we really pride ourselves in and welcome. And you can see on the left photo, actually, I've included Terry and Anne. John and Marty have written about them as well. Terry has sadly passed away last week, and his funeral will take place this coming week. But they are a very, very inspiring couple who touch everybody's lives, just like Marty and John are blessing us. We have lots of wonderful people. St. Uni and St. Anta are prime spots for people requesting to get married. That bride there is actually one of the teachers at our local church school. So we have a church school, St. Uni Church of England Academy, that's attached to us as a parish as well. And they make my week every week when I go in to do collective worship with them or assemblies with them. But lots of activities going on. You see a picture of St. Anta from the inside there towards the right as well. A very convertible space we have. And of course, we're quite active with many, many other things. We love to have events going on. We love to have the children coming to our church. You see them standing there with some Christingle candles. If you don't know what Christingle is about, do they do Christingles? Yes, they do Christingles. So Bible Society spread there. And there you see me being zapped by the bishop that licensed me into the church, where I've now been for almost 3 years. I was only 8 months licensed and working here when coronavirus came. So that was a surprise, like to many of us. In the background, sort of faintly, you can see a group of people, pilgrims as well, and a banner, because the Cobus Bay suddenly became very famous last year when the G7 summit took place here on our doorstep, and your President Biden gave my wife and me also a wave at the corner, which we felt very honored about. Moving on, lots of events that we put on. We're just starting to pick that up again because things went quiet, as you know, over the coronavirus time. And we love to have not only ourselves, but other people involved. We had this wonderful Exeter Philharmonic choir come and visit us last year. And we also do Cornish carols. That's quite an interesting thing because, of course, there are still some people who speak Cornish, but they're rare. But there's also melodies and so on for Cornish carols that they do. But we have to raise a lot of funds, and we have lots of fun as well with that. And Marty and John joined us for our Shrove Tuesday Beetle Drive this year, and they will tell you more about that. And maybe when they go back, they'll play it with you. I set them up now. It's great fun, and it's really a good event to have. And especially Marty and I are very competitive. We make a good team. Yeah. And there's just the end of our presentation of the two churches. We do love to thank people, and so does the bishop. There's our bishop of this diocese, Bishop Philip Milne-Stephen. He used to be the director of Christian Mission Society, the big mission agency. But you see Marilyn, one of our church wardens, standing there next to him, and just recently, it was last Sunday, wasn't it?
Yes.
She was awarded this cross of St. Piran. But there are Roger and Doreen as well. Doreen got it a while ago. You can see the hanging around there. Nick and Roger, who are both bell ringers and been here for many, many years. Roger growing up in this part as well, who were also awarded this cross. John might be writing more about that and tell you more about the cross of St. Piran. It's a very interesting tradition, but within the Church of England in this diocese, we have this once a year when the bishop gives a thank you to people who work often in the background and are not always seen. Their left hand not knowing what their right hand is doing in humility, and just recognizing the wonderful service and faithfulness of Christians. Well, that brings us...
Marilyn has given 10 years
yes.
as church warden.
Yeah, 10 years of church warden, and Roger have been bell ringer for many, many years. And
Almost 55.
That's right. And Doreen,
Yes.
Doreen is helping us a lot as well at church, doing many, many jobs. Okay, John. That's a lot about the church, but there's much more we can say about the history. But I think people can look up on our website and also our Facebook.
So we've covered the mission ministry. Tell us more about the mission.
Yeah, so we, I'm sorry, our dog is coughing here at the moment.
Okay.
Our mission statement for Carbis Bay in the Land is communicating the love of God in Carbis Bay in the Land, very short and sweet. But we want to elaborate on that, and that is one of our first ministry objectives, is to be able to just move across there. Is to work on our vision and mission. As you know, that is always something that needs to be reviewed by all healthy churches, and to set clear objectives that will be true for us within our time. We are two parishes or two churches joined together in a benefice to benefit from one another, and we often come together and have joint services, but usually every Sunday we have a service in both churches. And we have a deanery, which is part of the circuit that we're in, which is called Penwith Deanery. And we also have wonderful ecumenical involvement in the area, although all the churches felt the blow of the coronavirus and pandemic, and that had affected what we could do together. But normally for great festivals like Easter or Christmas, we might be doing things together with some other denominations, not just the Church of England or Anglican churches. There's Methodist churches, there's some free evangelical churches around. And we come together every week to pray, those of us who can, the leaders of the church, the different churches. You see the word "on the way" there, and the Green Kerno Award. Green Kerno has to do with being environmentally friendly, so we want to be accredited for that. So we're going to work towards being a greener church. And on the way is to do with what we want to do as a diocese or a church area in being more sustainable and fruitful, as well as streamlining what we do as a church. And that's part of our goals for the next 2 years as a benefice as well. We want to develop our children and family work. We have a wonderful relationship with St. Uni Church of England Academy. That's a primary school or elementary school, if you like, and with a lovely head, very, very happy school of about 231 or so children. And they often come to church for visits. And as I said before, I go there for collective worship as well. And it's just been opened up again, so to have visitors very recently. And so we would want to grow that. We were thinking of, in collaboration with the head in the school, to start a toddler group, a moms and toddler group, and reaching out to families. So the overlap between school and home and church will be strengthened. Then a third objective that we have is to develop our discipleship and outreach. Discipleship is used usually in the Church of England as how we build ourselves as Christians, reading the Bible, studying the Bible, praying together, and other disciplines that we want in our Christian life and to strengthen that. The outreach has to do with our mission and how we reach out to people who don't know God in the area. So we are hoping to offer more. We have already. Like now, at the moment, we're doing a Lent course, but we want to do discipleship courses as well, which we've done before, and also seekers courses like here in Britain. The most famous one is called Alpha. I don't know whether that's reached you across the pond, but you would be familiar with that as well as opportunities for people who want to ask questions about Christianity to be hosted through a meal and a talk and just a chance to ask questions and reach out to people who don't know Christ yet. And also a training our Christians who are in our churches to feel bold to share the gospel of Christ. And lastly, our objective that we set for the next 2 years as well is to develop our ministry, to encourage, this is where the Sans Koenig program comes in. That means the Saints Way in Cornish. And that is to encourage lay people, so to say, people who are not ordained in ministry, to develop their ministries. We already have people who are trained to be pastoral or local pastoral ministers, and we want to just pick that up again because we could not freely move during COVID. Throughout COVID, we had a volunteer phone list, and people were phoning one another, and we were ready to move on to visits. And the same with developing the faith and ministry of parishioners in a way that they can express it to others. John.
In the family.
Yeah, there we are. The Van Trapp family. Stefan is on the far left, 16. He's just preparing himself for his year 16 or age 16 exams, which they call the General Certificate in Education. And then there's Hanan, who doesn't have an age. And there's me, who is aging. And Kay is our eldest. She was only 2 when we came to Britain. And she's now 22, was a fine arts student and graduated in northern town called Leeds, or city called Leeds. And she's working there this year as an intern for her local church with children. And Julia has just started studying business and management at Exeter University, which is not far away from us. And Julia and Stefan were born here in Britain for us. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can see us, and John will then continue with the interview. I will tell you a little bit more about ourselves, but I think you've heard a lot of me. So I'm going to just quickly say where I'm from, and then I'm going to ask my wife, who's Jordanian, to tell us in Arabic some things that I might ask her to tell you, and then I'll translate it to you. We've married cross-culturally, but before that, of course, I grew up in South Africa. I'm from Dutch and also from British and French descent, if we trace our ancestors. But of course, you just have to be in a country 2 generations and you will be the people of that country. So I can't trace back my ancestors really that far to Europe. But we know that we came over with the settlers in 1652 to South Africa, and we have that legacy. Of course, an influence with Britain as well. From my mum's side, my grandmother was British. My great-grandmother was British, her grandmother, and she came to South Africa. And so my mum is a bilingual South African, talking both Afrikaans and English. And as I grew up, also speaking English from birth, although my mother tongue is Afrikaans at home. And I'm soon going to travel and take John and Marty with me to South Africa because they think Cornwall is beautiful. They have to come to South Africa as well.
So we will be going in spirit.
Yes. So I'm flying out next Sunday to see my mom for her 80th birthday. We have a bit of a family reunion. And you'll be proud of me. We live very cross-culturally because my eldest sister lives in Houston, Texas for the last 25 years, and she's an American citizen. And she's going to be coming home as well. So I've been to America, as has Hanan. I grew up in a Christian family. I had a calling to become a priest since the age of 10. I feel a little bit like Samuel, who God was speaking to. I was in my bedroom actually when I heard his whispering, calling me to become a minister. I first was ordained in a church in South Africa in 1993, actually, and left in 1993 to become a missionary in the Middle East. And I started off in Lebanon, but then I wanted to also learn to speak Arabic properly. And this is where Hanan comes in, because I went to Jordan. And she'll tell you what happened next in Arabic, and then I'll translate for you.
أنا اشتغلت في مدرسة عربية مسيحية.
Hanan worked in an Arabic school, a Christian school, for missionaries, teaching missionaries Arabic.
إرسالية حتى يدرسوا عربي ويخدموا البلاد العربية في كل مكان.
Yes, so she was teaching these missionaries in Amman, the capital, Arabic, so that they could serve within the Middle East. You should tell them who was teaching us.
مدير مدرسة أو القسيس كمان كنيستي George Kelsey from New Jersey.
Yeah, so actually another beautiful influence we had was from an American scholar, George Kelsey, who's recently passed away. He was an archaeologist and also pastor, and lived and worked in the Middle East for many, many years. And he started this language school in Amman, and Hanan was one of his teachers.
كنا 8 معلمين، وكل سنة من السنين اتيان اجا يتعلم عربي، عشان هيك كان في صفي اللي أنا بعلم.
Yeah, good. Yes, so Hanan has been teaching there for quite a number of years, about 8 years when I arrived. and then I was one of the students in the class as well, so I had an excuse to look at her and no one noticed.
عشان هيك
Yeah, and the rest is history. I eventually proposed. That was in 1997, and we got married in the same year in September. You want to say more? No?
No.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. From there, we traveled to Lebanon, and for a year we were working in Lebanon. I qualified myself when I was a missionary as also an art teacher in Beirut. That's before I met Hanan. We went back. I was head of art at a Christian school, and Hanan was studying theology at the Baptist Seminary in Beirut. We lived there together for a year. When just before our daughter Kay was born, we went back to South Africa for a sabbatical as well, when she was born in the year 2000. After that, we came back to the Middle East in 2002 and taught at a school for the deaf in Salt, one of the cities not too far from Amman. 9/11 took place, and we left the Middle East and came to Britain eventually for a gap year. We thought going back to the Middle East again in 2002, but God had other plans for us. We came to a crossroad where I was offered a job as an art teacher because I was earning my own income as a minister or a missionary, a tent maker missionary, if you like, a self-supported missionary or minister. And we had to decide, are we going back to the Middle East or are we staying on in Britain? And God gave us that choice. We decided to stay, which was a difficult decision for me especially, not so difficult for Hanan, because she did not want to go back and travel again. The first 5 years of our marriage, we were in a different country every year. So we decided to stay. And I then transferred my ordinance from the church in South Africa to the Church of England and became a priest in the Church of England. And I've been a priest now for over 10 years. I was ordained again in 2009, and you won't believe it, but they even wanted me to be confirmed in my faith again. Talk about ecumenical partnership. They don't always accept everything, you know. They were a bit suspicious of where I came from, but I definitely did not enter through the back door. They put me through different things that I needed to go, but it was good because I acclimatized in the Church of England. This April, we will be here, or will have been here, 20 years. That's enough of us, John.
One thing that I appreciate about St. Anta, the Church of England, is the weekly Eucharist,
Yes.
the Lord's table. It's being practiced differently now since COVID. Maybe you could tell us a bit about the last 2 years and how you've dealt with it.
Yeah, we were. I mean, like you probably as well, we went sort of into shock, isn't it? When COVID came. Well, in a way, people, I suppose you would agree, we really enjoy, especially living in Cornwall, because it was just with the break of spring in 2020 when the first lockdown came for 3 months here, and everybody thought wonderful holiday. And suddenly things just slowed down. There were even fish swimming in the sea that you don't normally see because human beings weren't disturbing them. And it slowed down everything. What happened to us in our church, Doreen will be a witness of that, we immediately went into a mode. I could not think of anything but caring for the parishioners. So into a pastoral mode, shall I say. And that's where we then started to have a phone volunteer system to make sure that we talk to people once or twice a week or as needed, to make sure that they're not isolated, to join in with the local village, Leland, where that old church St. Uni is, to bring meals to people. So like you, I suppose, we had to do what we had to do to cope with this unseen enemy. We've moved on since then. But we've been in several lockdowns, as you know, here in Britain, and every time we went online, we had to suddenly come together as two churches in a different way. It did bring us together very well, and we had many lovely fellowship sessions as a church on Sunday mornings. Did you join in with some of those that we had online when we had lockdown, John? I can't remember.
Before lockdown,
Yeah.
no, before we left 5 weeks
That's
early,
right.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
And we joined the Thursday night applause from your door or your window
That's right.
for the NHS, the National Health Service people. And we also, at one point, gathered at that same window and said the Lord's Prayer out loud,
That's right. That's right.
joining others across the country.
Yeah, I remember that so well. Yes, and we had all the videos and things that we made, you know, to reach out to people. It did simplify things a little bit. We became a bit more minimalist in our way of doing things. We're just starting to pick things up, but I think some of the unnecessary frills fell off in being church. We had some weekly gatherings, and they since changed, so we don't have that at the moment, but we gather in a different way. We started discipleship courses, which we did not do before, and we started online streaming, you know, for some of our services, which we haven't done before. But keeping things focused. I think also it helped the parishioners to realize that church doesn't need to be done in a conventional way. You can do it in more than one way. It's interesting how we go back to our old ways, though. But we have something like a cafe church, for instance, that we started at St. Anta as well, which is not reinventing the wheel, but quite informal. Have you experienced a cafe church since you've been here? Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, so when I come back from South Africa, there will be more cafe churches as well. So John and Marty will join in with that, an informal service around tables to actually accommodate people who are not used to the very wordiness of the Church of England. It suits me well because I'm very talkative, so it doesn't matter.
There are two other areas, the focus on challenges that you face currently, and then also the joys and opportunities you see ahead.
Yes, we mentioned on the way. That would be the biggest challenge at the moment. we were sworn to silence. We actually just had a long meeting of 8 hours or more yesterday as a circuit of churches, the deanery as it's called, and a leadership group that had to come up or refine a plan that we've been in the making for over a year to see how we can rejig things within our area. It does mean that 10.5 posts for priests are being reduced to only 5 posts. So we cut in half, and or 5.5, and we had to make that plan. And the bishop did not bring it from top down. He asked us as a leadership group to form a leadership group and to come up with a plan. We did lots of consultations with our PCCs and churches and taking people's opinions. You can just think how contentious that would have been, and how that would make people anxious because they don't want to lose their priest or they don't want to change their church. But the whole Church of England throughout the country had to rationalize. There's no other word for it really, but with those keywords, sustainability and fruitfulness, which is anyway what all churches should always do. So that is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity, because my 2 churches, or our 2 churches, St. Anta and St. Uni, are very willing to share. There might be some individuals that will find the change hard, but we hope that we will be across the circuit or the deanery, be able to share resources. For instance, having a pilgrimage officer that would coordinate all these pilgrimages that go on, because people come from yonder to like John and Marty, to come and walk in our area. Lots of walkers, because it's so beautiful. So you won't ever regret it if you visit our part of the world. You don't have to live in a box like Marty and John for 3 months. I'm just joking, because this is sort of a standing joke now, because they would say, why would you leave your beautiful new place where you live and come and live here in a box? It's a nice box, though. And we've been there and had much fun with Marty and John already. Of course, Marty and John are as hospitable as we are, and we love having them in our midst. But the on-the-way process is a difficult thing. I think we would face challenges like any other church in the world of secularism, with in our benefice also the fact that we have lots of second home owners, meaning people that buy houses here just to come on holiday, which has an effect on the community, not necessarily negative, although the locals have a love-hate relationship with all the visitors. Not Martin and John, of course, that's just love all the time. But because they stay for long, and they're not just coming to exploit us, they're coming to bless us every moment that they're with us. It's a blessing. And but people have, and the locals, feel sometimes a bit threatened by, I won't tell you what they call them, but John and Martin can tell you later. But they have this love-hate relationship with the visitors because they come in their thousands. At St. Anta, where, for instance, and at St. Uni, we benefit from the footfall. We have a car park at St. Anta that raises a lot of money just by providing a beach car park during the summer. And that's one way of having what we call kingdom enterprise. And so there are positive things as well. I'll leave it with that for now, John.
Good. And just add something about your joys and delights, satisfactions.
Yeah, nice chocolate. Not in Lent. No. I have to say, on a personal level, we fell in love, just like John and Marty, and of course we foreigners as well. We fell in love with Cornwall. We came on many holidays because we lived up in Oxfordshire, and we also lived in Lancashire, up in the north. We started off in Liverpool in the northwest, and we came on holidays here often. When this job came up, I resisted applying because I did not want to apply for being tempted by living in the beautiful area. But what a grace that God sent me here, and that He wanted me to be here, because my son and I, for instance, jog on the beach every morning when the weather's okay, even through the winter. It's idyllically beautiful and such beautiful clean air. Actually, our living churchyard has lichen and moss and so on growing that shows the air is quite clear. Artists love to be in the St. Ives Bay area because the light, the sky is so bright and the lighting is so good for their painting and artwork. So it's an art hub. And that has been not only in our contemporary time, but also in the history. Of course, there's lots of beautiful things to see, but within ministry, I think other ministers would agree with me that there's something very special about Cornish churches and Cornish people, and also those who come to join the Cornish here. I won't say they laid back. John and Marty would be able to describe it maybe as well, but they're really hospitable and down to earth and very, very sincere people, whether they're Christian or not, and very interesting people. I've never seen so many men with long hair and beards. Have you noticed that ever in Cornwall?
Yes.
When we moved down here, it's like an image they have, and that's not meant as an insult. It's just Cornish people look a little bit different as well. They're not as white as English people would be. They have not as fair skins. Some of them have quite olive color skins. And of course, I lived and worked in the Middle East, in Lebanon, and they trace back contact between the Middle East and Cornwall over the centuries. In fact, the Bishop of Cornwall, or Truro, wants to form a church link, an international link with the churches in Lebanon because of the link we have with Lebanon. And there's even some food like the saffron cake that they make here in Cornwall that relates to the Lebanese and the Middle East. And of course, there's a link between Cornwall and South Africa as well because of the mining. South Africa is known for its mining of gold and diamonds, and the Cornish for their tin. And actually, the Bishop of Truro has a beautiful a cross that he wears that's made, well, a bit of it is made out of tin, and it shows the Jesus figure, which you see everywhere on the Cornish crosses here. They're not Celtic crosses. Well, they are Celtic originally, but not the same as a Celtic cross that you would find in the cemetery. They were markers that were put around, and they have the Christ figure on them. Very, very, very old stones that would be more than 1,000 years old. So there's lovely, rich culture within this area, and the Church of Cornwall is struggling sometimes. Cornwall is quite poor, but it's a joy to serve here. And there's a uniqueness about the church in Cornwall and ministry here as well. Of course, we would like anywhere in the world, to have the church grow. And our slogan for our diocese, our church area, would be to discover God's kingdom and grow his church.
I would echo that we have felt welcome, as Etienne and Anan have as they came. And I'd like Marty just to say briefly how we got to St. Anta.
Well, I'm glad to see that Roger and Doreen are watching.
Give them a wave, Doreen and Roger. Doreen, give us a wave.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. Because interestingly, when we first started coming to Cornwall in 2008, when we retired, we decided that we would visit a number of churches, and then we would decide which church we would attend. St. Anta was the first church that we attended because it was just up the hill from where we were living those 3 months. And after, everyone was very welcoming and warm. And after the service, Roger and Doreen came up to us and said, "Would you like to learn to ring the bells?" And we were taken aback because we didn't have bells at home. We didn't really think that we could learn to ring bells, but we said, well, sure, why not? And from that, we went to ring the bells on Thursday night, and we never visited another church. We just became part of St. Anta and All Saints.
Wonderful.
The vicar at the time, they had a concert group in to raise money for a new boiler. as we've said, you wear your coat in church because the boiler doesn't heat the
No.
everything. In any case, the last number was dedicated to us. The Lord bless you and keep you. And the vicar added, they came for Lent and stayed for Easter. So
like now.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful memories. I see our time is coming to the Q&A, and we'll open that, and then I have a prayer at the very end.
So, who's leading the question and answer session? Is that John?
Probably
Or Philip?
Phillips.
They have to unmute
We'll have to unmute.
the individual. So
There's something happening.
Anyone who wants to ask a question. Well, I want to, this is Joe Good speaking. I want to offer my thanks to all of you for this wonderful presentation, introduction. You make me add to my bucket list, I guess, is the American phrase for where I would like to visit yet, if the good Lord willing. John, go ahead with your prayer.
Is there a question and answer session going on?
I think we have not picked up questions, and so I think we will bring it to a close.
Okay,
no worries.
Okay.
John Bender to bring it to a close.
Okay, very good. 2 Sundays ago, we sang a hymn twice. Let all the world in every corner sing, my God and King. And the second time, this is a George Herbert song. George Herbert lived 1595 to 1633. So the Christian train is long and emphatic. We sang this the second time in thinking of the people of Ukraine. And we didn't say much about that today, but our closing prayer is also thinking of the people of Ukraine. And the Church of England has a prayer list. Sunday, 13 March, Korymila Sunday. Korymila is a community center that hosts 11,000 people a year in the north coast of Ireland. And I think there are people in Sojourners that have been part of Korymila.
Okay.
Yes, that's
John.
John.
This is John. Yes, Lederer.
John Lederer, John and Naomi. Thank you for all the work you've done in Korymila, John. And this prayer is for the transformation that comes through human encounter in centers like that in our own lives. So I read this prayer. We pray for peace. Many know the ravages of war. We pray for all those negotiating peace, whether in parliamentary houses or in places of refuge. May they find the wisdom and generosity to shape words that will support lasting peace. For one of the names of God is Shalom, and it is to God we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for joining us, and blessings for the week.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It was an honor. And do come and visit us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you on behalf of the class who's gathered here and those on Zoom. Blessings to you and your work there.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you. The same to you.